Can you guess which asset I've built in my online business that I get asked about the most and that people desperately want to replicate and desperately want to know exactly how I did it and exactly how they can do it too? And yet it's the one thing I don't recommend anyone else does in online business, especially not in your early stages. It's having a free Facebook group. So this is going to be such a juicy episode because so many people assume that I recommend having and starting free Facebook groups as a marketing strategy, but I actually actively try and dissuade everyone from doing it. So let's dive into this one. This is episode number 395 of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. All the relevant links and show notes for today's episode can be found over at tashcorbin.com/395. Let's dive in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. So when it comes to any strategy decision in your business, it is always your choice. And I am not one to stand in the way of anyone who really wants to create a free Facebook group and build a community, and they've got all of these ideas of what they're going to do with that space. But I just want to be clear that if I was starting my business over or the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group did not exist today, I would be very hesitant to start a free Facebook group. And it is absolutely not something that I recommend or I ever think is something that is required in order to be able to grow your business online, and particularly not fast track your business growth online either. So when it comes to growing your presence on social media and building an audience on Facebook, the main reasons people cite as why a free Facebook group has been recommended to them or why they believe a free Facebook group is the best fit for them moving forward is, number one, in a free Facebook group, they believe they get better reach. So if they start a Facebook page, they're not going to get as great Facebook reach with their posts because they'll only reach a small portion of that audience. Well, I can tell you, I have just under 9,000 followers on my Facebook page, and my average reach of each post on Facebook is around 1,000. When I post in the Heart-Centered community, which has 35,000 members, which I post in consistently, which I am the administrator for, and which I have posted consistently in since its inception just over 10 years ago, my average reach of most posts is about 200 to 300 people. So if I actually wanted to reach a higher proportion of members of the Heart-Centered community, I would need to use the @everyone tag, or I would need to force people to engage with my content in some way, like I do see some people do in groups where people are only allowed to share their offers in the comments of a post that's created by the administrator. But the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook community does not exist as a part of my marketing strategy. And when I say this over and over again, a lot of people don't believe me, but there are definitely benefits to having the Heart-Centered community. The volume of people in there alone does create a sense of credibility and social proof. But there are far easier ways to amass an audience of 35,000 people. And the way that that audience grew back when it grew to 35,000 was actually by no design of my own. The Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Group experienced its most growth at a time where Facebook was actively recommending Facebook groups to all of its users, and they don't do that anymore. So when you used to log into Facebook, on the right-hand side column, it would have suggested groups. It was its own part of the news feed on the right-hand side on a desktop platform. In addition, if you were on Facebook on your phone, on the app, in your feed where most of the ads are and the reels are these days would be posts that were put there by Facebook for free. I never paid for it. That suggested groups that were very active and engaged. Facebook doesn't do that anymore. So you may have noticed over the last year, the numbers of people in the heart-centered community has actually been going down because I don't actively focus on growing that community. It is not a part of my marketing strategy, and it is not a space where I am able to readily reach and get in front of the largest portion of my audience. So I do not recommend starting a Facebook group or buying into the belief that a Facebook group is somehow better for your reach than just focusing on building a Facebook business page. So when it comes to a Facebook group, your reach is always capped at the number of members in that group. So when you have a group like mine, I think it's actually 34,000 something now. We've actually dropped back below 35,000. But when you have a group like that, yeah, sure, being able to get in front of 35,000 people is pretty spectacular. But I have never once in the entirety of the history of the heart-centered community ever had a post that has reached more than around 5,000, 6,000 members at one time. And that is with asking people to comment on the post. So usually where there's a post that updates people about group guidelines or extra opportunities or things that they will be able to do to grow their own businesses, I will ask members, please comment on this one so that we can get it in front of as many people as possible. I don't do that in posts that promote something of mine. I don't do that in posts that are promoting my free webinar or talking about my own business. I only do that in posts that are specific to the group experience, specific to the opportunities available to people within the group. That's it. That's the only time that I get people to comment on those posts. Now, I know that I could, if I wanted to, ask people in the group to comment on things that are promoting my business, but that's not why they're in the group. They're not in the group to be my business growth specialists. They're in the group to be able to promote their own services, to be able to connect with potential audience members of their own, to be able to learn from and support each other. That is a peer-to-peer support group, and I am in that group as a peer. I am not a member of that group to turn it into the Tash Corbin show, to hold the microphone and not let anyone ever have a turn with the microphone. The reason why the group is so engaged, the reason why the group is so amazing, the reason why the group is so spectacular, and a lot of dodgy business coaches try and take advantage of that, is because of that fact. If I turned that group into something that was specifically focused on me and my business, and it's the Tash Corbin show, and I use the @everyone tag all the time, and I'm forcing people to consume content that is about me and about my business, the group would not be the spectacular community-based space that it is today. The Heart Centre community has been studied by universities as a model of shared leadership and true shared leadership in online spaces, simply because of the fact that I refuse to take over the microphone and turn it into the Tash Corbin show and force people to consume content that is related to my business and my offers. So there's no way for me to get content within that community in front of every single member other than using the @everyone tag. And if I use the @everyone tag, people can actually turn off notifications for that @everyone tag now. I don't know if you've noticed this. So every time the @everyone tag is used on me in Facebook groups, if I love the group, I'll just turn off notifications. If I'm indifferent to the group, I'll leave it. And we are seeing Facebook groups hemorrhaging members at the moment because people are overusing that @everyone tag. I still have not yet used it in the Heart Centre community. And I still don't ever see that I would have a need to use it in the Heart Centre community. And so if I am not going to use the @everyone tag, then, and there's also no opportunity to run ads in that group. So there is no way for me to get my business content in front of every single member. But also the organic growth of that space these days, because of the change in the way that Facebook is preferencing groups and the fact that they don't really want to be promoting Facebook communities for free and getting people to join communities for free anymore, and especially not low engagement communities. You may have noticed when you go to certain groups on Facebook, it pops up and says, hey, we can see you're going to visit this Facebook group, but that one's not actually very engaged. Do you want to come to this one instead? And people have sent me screenshots of this everywhere where they've gone to go into another Facebook group that's not as good. And it's popped up with a suggestion that says, hey, do you want to go to the Heart Center group instead? It's way more engaged. It has 8 times the engagement, or it's had over 200 posts and 4,000 comments in the last 2 days. It's much more active. Do you want to go and visit that group instead? So Facebook is diverting people away from low engagement groups and to high engagement groups, but there is just no organic growth of that community. We see the number of people joining the heart-centered community is around 100 a week, but we would lose that many members a week as well at the same time. We are also very, very strict on the balance between people promoting in the group versus people contributing to the group. We've also recently been removing people who don't post in the group at all, but somehow are friends with 500 to 1,000 members of the group. So we do know that cold friend requesting and cold private messaging people is a strategy that is being taught, and it's consistently used to try and drain members out of communities for other people's needs. So I'm not in the space where I'm trying to grow that group right now. I'm actually trying to reward the most active and rule-abiding members, those people who have the most transparency, who have the most engaging and empowering content, those people who are genuinely giving to the community. Those people are getting prioritized and preferenced, and other people are just being removed. Like, we've removed probably 1,000 members over the last month who they've only ever shared a promo post, or they haven't shared a single post in the last 4 years. We've just removed them. They're no longer going to be members of the community. And so the organic growth of Facebook groups these days is very, very low. And the work that you need to put into getting someone into a Facebook group is even more than or about the same as getting them to follow your page. And if you have content that you have on your Facebook page and you want to ensure that everyone on your page has seen it, you can actually pay for ads, and it does not cost you a lot of money to get your post in front of all of your followers. So if I do a post that's promoting something like a webinar, or I do a post I think is a really fun conversation or a tip or something along those lines, if I want to get that reaching a good majority of the people who follow my page, it would cost me about $50. So I would rather use that $50 to reach those people with that content than, tie myself in knots and spend hours and hours a day trying to manufacture conversations or, in some way force people to engage with content. I just think it's so much more straightforward and simple. And there comes a time in your social media where it's no longer viable for you to invest more time to get more reach. It's time for you to invest money to get more reach. And so using a Facebook group as your core space on social media on Facebook is not scalable. You can't then invest money in that to grow its reach. You could do ads that promote the group, but those ads that promote the group then bring people into the group, but that doesn't mean you can actually get in front of those people. You've just brought them into your group, but now how do you actually get them to see your content as the group facilitator without using that everyone tag or forcing people to consume your content? So that organic growth is really down, and so I think it's far more effective and far more efficient to focus on growing your Facebook page. Also, then you've got 2 places where people can follow you. You've got 2 places where people might expect to interact with you. It's taken me a long time to train people within the heart-centered community that if I say I'm going to do a Facebook Live, it's on my page. I'm not doing it in the heart-centered community. Now, the reason for that is that if that Facebook Live does really well in the heart-centered community, the reach of that Facebook Live is capped. I can't then boost it to get it in front of everyone. I'm not going to use the @everyone tag. and it's not doing anything to grow my reach on my Facebook page. So instead, I do all of my lives over on my Facebook page. So if people want to come to the Tash Corbin show, they want to come to a space where I hold the microphone, it's my page. So in doing that and in facilitating that understanding for my audience, what I'm doing is saying, if there's one place where you want to hang out with me online and learn from me and hear from me, it's my Facebook page. If you want to be part of a space where you're connecting with other entrepreneurs, and I'm there as a peer as well, but I'm just the same as every other member, then that's the Facebook group. And so for most people who want to start a Facebook group to grow their business, what they're trying to do is create almost like a duplicate of their Facebook page, but they're just doing it in group form because they believe they'll be able to grow their reach more effectively or reach more of those people effectively, but that's actually no longer the case in Facebook. The other thing is the admin requirement for hosting a group space is much higher. So I have been very open about the cost to my business of paying the admin team for the heart-centered, soul-driven entrepreneurs community. And I do have quite a few people who volunteer to do administrative duties for that community. But something that is very important to me as a business owner is that for any space that I facilitate, it must be inclusive, it must be anti-racist, it must be LGBTQ friendly space, and that there is no discriminatory practices or any conversations or content that is shared in that space that may be potentially harmful to members is taken care of very quickly, but that we are also creating additional opportunities for marginalized people to have the microphone more consistently. And so in order to ensure that the admin team are doing that effectively, doing that consistently, I need the admin team to be my paid employees so that I can be directive around the training that I need them to complete in order to feel confident that they're able to hold that space, that they are able to administer that group in a way that is not silencing marginalized people around certain conversations. I want to ensure that my team are fully equipped to address racist comments or racist and homophobic content that is shared in that community. And if I'm trying to wrangle a bunch of volunteer administrators, that becomes far more challenging for me, and it becomes a matter of my time, which is far more precious to me than the money that I invest in the administration of the group. So to be upfront with you, in the last quarter of 2023, the admin cost of the heart-centered community was getting up over $3,000 a month for me to pay for the admin team to administer that group. Now, this is a free community in which I do not market myself any more than any other member of that community. And so I see the Heart Center community as a bit of an act of service. It's a gift. It's a space where we can engage with potential audience members. We can practice our messaging. We can practice pitching our offers. We can sell to each other. We can learn from each other, with a view to then scaling that up on our own platforms. And I love that I can make that offer and host that space for people, but it definitely costs me more than it makes me. And I want to be really clear about that, because I think for a lot of people, they assume that the heart-centered community is a net gain or net benefit to my business. But if I put that $3,000 a month into Facebook ads, I would grow my mailing list by 1,500 to 2,000 people every single month. And that would be far more profitable to my business personally than the money that I put into administering the group. But I continue to make the decision to provide that opportunity because I see how needed it is. And I also get so much from that space as a peer. I've met some of my best business friends in that community. I've met some of the people that, when I had my engagement party pre-COVID, we had more attendees at that engagement party from the heart-centered community that had become lifelong, very close, dear friends to me than we did family members. And so that community does not exist for the benefit of my business. It exists for the benefit of me as a human and the benefit of all members. And to see the people in that community who are making sales, who are learning how to create consent-based marketing strategies and practice them and do their first ever Facebook Live in that space because it feels safer than doing it publicly on their own page, that is what lights me up, and that's what makes me feel like it is such a precious place and that I want to keep it going. But as I said, if you are someone who has limited time or limited money to invest in the growth of your business, and your number one priority right now is growing your client base, growing your mailing list, growing your income from your business, Facebook groups are not the smartest nor the most efficient strategy to do it. And so people make that assumption all the time about why I do it, and it's actually not the reason why. The other thing is that when it comes to creating a Facebook group and running a Facebook group, the Facebook groups that do the best are the ones where it's not about the admins. It's not about the person who started the group. The Heart Center group is one of those spaces where there are people who are in the Heart Center community who still can't remember my name as the person who created the group, but they know the group and they know other people in the group that they have bought from and that they would call their mentor or their coach, or they have met their business bestie in that community. And that is a purposeful decision that I have made to ensure that the group is self-leading and that the group has that model of shared leadership. And so therefore, as I said, the return on investment for having a free Facebook group compared to the other options that are available to you, it just doesn't compare. And so when it comes to having a free Facebook group as part of your business and marketing strategy, it is very rare that I would recommend that you do so. Now, the beautiful thing is that you can actually be a leader in other people's Facebook groups as well. And simply by learning how to be a consistent and present leader in other people's spaces, you can get the benefit of the access to groups like the Heart-Centered community without having to build your own version of the Heart-Centered community. There are lots of Facebook groups out there that have a similar model to the Heart-Centered group in that you are able to promote your services on certain days in your own posts. Some of them also have freebie days, the way that we do in the Heart-Centered community as well. And you are able to show up and share advice on advice giving days. You're getting to know people. There are ways that you can create that human to human connection through some of those theme days and guidelines. And also something that we do in the Heart Center group is that at certain times of the year, there are other opportunities for you to step into the spotlight a little more fully as a member of the community as well. So I built the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs group to be able to share it with people like you. And I would love for you to come and share in that space. I have no ego around who is the most well-known person in that space or who is the person who is seen as a leader in that space. I want you to be seen as a leader in that space. I want you to stake your space in that community, not because you've surreptitiously convinced people to accept your friend request because you pretended to be interested in buying from them, which is unfortunately some of the problematic behavior that we've seen in the group in the past, but simply because you show up consistently and you share stuff that's great value. Become known in that group because you actively participate in things like the games that we play and the getting to know you exercises and knowing who's who in the group and actually learning about other active participants in the community and some of those fun shared history moments that we have as a group as well. Become a leader in the Heart Center community by coming to our conference. We have an in-person conference and a virtual conference every year, and that conference exists because the members asked for it. And it has been running since 2017, and it is one of the most engaged, generous, gorgeous, connected experiences you'll ever have as a business owner. And it's because the conference reflects that same culture of shared leadership and sharing the microphone. So in virtual conference, we have structured networking opportunities. We have opportunities for us to spotlight each other as participants in conference. We have opportunities to share our knowledge and share our resources and share our offers with each other and follow each other on socials. And we facilitate a lot of that same structure in the lead up to the in-person conference as well. So if you haven't checked out Virtual Conference, I'll make sure I put the links to it and also the in-person conference in the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/395. Just to let you know, for the in-person conference, we do have a wait list at the moment, but we have had quite a few people who initially had purchased tickets but now can't do the dates because something else has come up. And so we do have tickets popping up for sale here and there. So do make sure that you go and register for the wait list. We have a wait list for 2024 in-person as well as 2025. But the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference is a beautiful way for you to step into that space of leadership and become well known in the space really quickly as well. So if you support the events that support the community, if you support the events that involve the community, whether they're free events, that games that we play and those special opportunities, or they're paid things like our conference, then you are going to be able to establish that leadership and build that audience of your own, build those connections without ever having to spend a cent on admin fees or worry about conversations blowing up in the group and not knowing whether you need to stop those conversations or not, or how to ensure that you create that safety and that inclusion for marginalized members of your community. You get to borrow my group, and I encourage you to step into that space and promote your business and promote yourself and share in that space and build out your network. Your network reflects your net worth. And I love that I can create a space, especially for women and marginalized people, to be able to build their network without having to go and join those $25,000 a year masterminds, without having to be part of that boys club. We are able to create those connections and support each other and know that a rising tide lifts all boats, and we are all going to benefit from each other's success. We don't need to compete with each other. So please do come and make the most of the opportunity that the Heart-Centered community affords you. If you would like to learn a bit more detail about how to show up in Facebook groups, just like the Heart-Centered community, in a way that is consent-based, that is respectful of the boundaries and guidelines of those spaces, and in a way that's really aligned with growing your own audience and building your business, I have a new version of the Heart-Centered Groups training that is going to be released very soon. So when people join the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group, I'll put links to that as well if you're not a member, but when people join that community, one of the things that you're asked on entry is, would you like to get a copy of the Heart-Centered Groups training, which helps you to navigate groups like this, but also make more sales in Facebook communities. But we only started offering that a couple of years ago. And so at that point in time, we already had like 23,000 members. So lots of people missed out on getting that offered to them. And I post about it and the team posts about it pretty consistently in the group. But again, we don't have a lot of reach and we don't get in front of everyone. So if that's something you'd like to check out, make sure that you go to the link in the show notes at tashcorbin.com/395, or have a look at the pinned announcements in the Heart-Centered community, because we've set up a waitlist for people who are interested in getting access to that training when the new one is released. And as soon as it's ready, we will send you all the details. We'll pop them in either a reply to your comment on the post in the Heart-Centered group, or if you've signed up to the waitlist, we'll just send it straight to you on email. And that training is a detailed training on how to show up in Facebook groups in a way that's going to be really beneficial to growing your own audience and making more sales in your business as well. So hopefully you found that really helpful. I understand that it sounds like it's a bit negative about Facebook groups, and sometimes when I do episodes like this or I do Facebook Lives where I'm talking about all of the challenges of facilitating a free Facebook group like this, people assume that I'm like on the verge of closing it down or I need a lot of help with being able to run it. I'm just being realistic and I'm just being really honest about what happens behind the scenes with that group, because I know that if I told everyone that the Heart Centered community is responsible for most of my income and growing a Facebook group like mine is a life-changing experience and it's such a great growth thing for your business, I could charge $500 for a course on how to grow a Facebook group like mine. But it wouldn't be real. And it wouldn't be true. And it wouldn't actually be me doing a good job of mentoring you, because I believe I'd be doing you a disservice. I think there are far more efficient and far more cost-effective ways for you to grow your own audience and grow a scalable audience than to create a free Facebook community. And so if you have any questions about that, you've got some but Tashes, be sure to send through an email to support@tashcorbin.com. You're also welcome to submit a question at tashcorbin.com/question. I look forward to the discussion on this one because I do think that there are a lot of assumptions people make about the Heart-Centered community. And of course, until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.